Nicole Reimer, thank you for coming back to the Hub. I'm really excited. I have been waiting for this guest for quite a while. I've already interviewed her for the radio show, Make Your Life Happen, and it was such a special show. I had to bring her back, and we're going to do a two-parter, so bear with us today. Riana Milne, thank you for coming.
Nicole, thanks for having me back. I always love to be on your show.
Thank you. I know. We'll
great.
have to do this every month. It'll be like a monthly thing.
Let's do it.
So I met you, I don't believe in coincidences, and I went to a women's seminar, and we gave away a
big
appearance on the show, and it was you, and I believe it was meant to be.
It was awesome.
Because you came on the radio show, and we talked about some really heavy, serious things that people don't usually want to delve into.
It's true.
Right?
Yes.
And life, love, you do everything. You're an author. We're going to talk about your books.
Okay.
You're a life coach, relationship coach. You're a speaker. Anything else I'm missing?
Certified clinical trauma professional.
Wow.
Student assistance counselor, where I worked in the schools from grade kindergarten all the way through college with people of trauma.
Right.
So I did a lot of childhood trauma work through students.
Right.
Licensed mental health counselor, New Jersey and Florida. Drug and alcohol addictions counselor, New Jersey, Florida. I think those are most of the initials.
That's a lot.
You know, you have to do a lot just to get the piece of paper to help people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all based around my passion to help people who are in pain, really. You know, that's
You
what
have
it's
a
about.
life work of that, too, I think.
And I'm an interfaith minister, too. Yeah, so
I
I've
did
been
not
doing
know that.
weddings since 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think at the heart, it comes back to love, right?
It does.
And being in a healthy relationship
Yes.
and how those traumas, which we're going to get into, really affect everything that
I
you
have
do.
officiated the services of several of my clients
Wow.
who went
that
through
must-
traumatic relationships, and through their change, they met someone wonderful. Actually, you know, one of my men from New Jersey, he called and he goes, "I'm flying you back. I want you to marry me and my lady. Because if it wasn't for you, I never would have met her."
Wow.
And I was like, those are hard weddings for me to get through because I'm so emotionally happy for them.
Right, you
know?
saw where they were in the beginning, and you
Yeah.
saw the transformation, which I would imagine is it's like a 180 or
It
a 360
is.
that you kind of full circle,
It
you got
is.
to
It's
be
really
there with
beautiful.
them.
And even couples that were on the brink of divorce.
Wow.
You know, they wanted a new love commitment ceremony done, so I've done those. So, yeah, it's really beautiful work.
That is great work too.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this for a while. Like you said, you started you're a Philly girl. I have to put that out there because we're two Philly girls here.
Yes, that's why we bonded
Yes,
so much.
we bonded so much just over that. But you did start in the New Jersey school system, and they
Yes.
implemented a lot of your practices.
Yes, well, I
into
was doing
schools.
meditation for kids that had high anxiety or ADHD students in 2004. And I was in an elementary school in southern New Jersey, had a lot of bullying, so I was the anti-bullying teacher and drug and alcohol. And I came from a talent background. I had a model and talent agency
Yep.
10 years, and I said, I'm going to do a talent club and do a, end of the year show where everyone performed. They had to audition, just like my models and actors had to audition. So they had to really plan it and dress
Right.
for it. But I had these kids on TV, and I had them in the newspaper. But the rule was you can't get a detention or suspension. So the bullies became the leaders of the school.
Wow, that is
because I
awesome.
love singing and dancing and rapping, and we had such a good time doing it. Then they're on TV. Then they're helping out the shy kids.
Right.
So it was a whole attitude adjustment around. Like I even teach my adults, find your purpose and your passion, and everything else in life can
Right.
change for you, right?
Right, and that was so important. I remember from the radio show how a lot of the bullying, it treats the person being bullied,
Yes.
not the bully.
Well, I taught my students in the elementary program, if someone is bullying you, they're coming in from a household where there's pain.
Right.
And they'd have nothing else to do with that energy. They might not have slept that night. They might not have eaten for days. They don't know where their mom is. They're in the streets of Atlantic City. These are some of my
Right,
stories, so
right.
it's true. And then they come in upset and angry. So they learned to say, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to go
Right.
Miss Rihanna's relaxation room and we'll talk about it?
Wow.
So then that was called Stand Up for Friendship. And everybody had a bully busting buddy.
A bully busting buddy.
In place.
I love that.
And they watch out for each other.
I love that. Because
So
that
these are
creates
some new-
leaders,
yeah,
too.
that's right.
Leadership skills.
And being able to talk about their feelings. They learned the art of negotiation. They learned to say that word, negotiation.
Wow.
So they were communicating through,
Right.
their issues and problems by telling their sides of the story.
Right.
And I love that work.
That's amazing. I mean, I would imagine how many young lives you changed just from that
Thanks.
program, because
Yeah.
that's such a prevalent issue
It is.
today, and I think that needs to be in every single school system.
When I moved down here in 2014, I wrote every school and
Yeah.
told them I had taught, for in-service district teachers these programs, and nobody wrote me back.
Okay,
So it's
South Florida, what are we doing?
And unfortunately, things like Parkland then happen.
Yeah.
And there's no trauma professional or counselor in place at these schools, nobody helping the teachers to help the kids.
To cope with everything
Right,
going on.
and it's
right?
not the guidance counselors. They are not trained in this type of
Right.
thing. I was a specialty counselor because I'm a psychotherapist
Right.
in a school, and then I added the trauma education on top of it. So you need someone with that kind of specialty to be able to handle the kids that are acting out. There's a reason. They're not bad kids. They're coming
Right.
from bad situations.
Right, and they're getting labeled as bad.
Yes, exactly.
And it's just like a snowball effect. It just gets worse as they get older,
That's
too.
right. Yeah.
And then things like Parkland happen, unfortunately.
Yes.
So let's go back. 10 traumas.
Okay.
And all this work. Where did it come
Yes.
from? Because you have done
Okay.
an extensive amount of work to bring this to life. And I think it's amazing. First of all, everybody get a pen and paper, because I feel like everybody needs to listen to all this.
This is an important part.
Yeah.
My research came because I needed it.
Okay.
I married someone, everything called us the perfect couple in Atlantic City, was handsome and charming and witty, and a school principal for middle school. I'm working with kids at an elementary school at the time. We were introduced by the superintendent, so we didn't even meet online. It was like everything was aligned.
Falling in place.
We each had 2 kids. All 4 kids loved each other.
Wow.
Very happy that we were getting married, the whole 9 yards. So this idyllic relationship fell apart when a whole secret life of his was exposed. As a principal, there was porn found on his computer,
Oh,
and
wow.
then he had an affair with a married teacher.
Wow.
Who happened to be the son of the mayor's wife. So long story short,
Whoa.
it exploded in the community. I was left in shock. My kids are like, what? Everybody's shocked.
Life, yeah.
And the first thing I needed to do was stand up for myself. So I served as my own attorney and went in and fought for an annulment because I didn't think anyone could tell my story more than me.
Wow.
And I wrote up the complaint with 3 items. One was fraud, one was sociopathy, and one was sex addiction. And I had a file, traced all the things that he was into, had all the proof. And he, of course, didn't show up. He ran away. He ran out of town to Florida.
Wow.
But long story short, the judge says, Ms. Milne, in 32 years of family court, I only granted 1 annulment. He slammed the hammer and he goes, and yours is a second.
Wow.
He goes, congratulations, you seem like a great person. So this is after 5 months of a marriage. I said, hell no, I'm not staying in this.
Wow, yeah.
Because I knew there was something wrong, but this was the thing. I didn't know what was the matter. I didn't know what he had. And I have a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology, graduated summa cum laude with a 4.0. And there was nothing I missed in school because I
Right.
was in my classes. And I'm like, this did not come out. What does he have? And I have 7 psychotherapy friends, of course, that I asked them. They're like, we have no idea. It
Wow.
shocked all of us. So nobody knew what it was. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do the research. So after 2 years of solid research, it's gone into my coaching program. One's for singles called Dating to Mating, and the other one's for couples called Relationship Rescue. And it boils down to childhood traumas. Now, the very cool thing about all this, I came out and I said, okay, this is my research. Did I have time to do empirical studies, scientific studies? No. But I knew with helping my clients, my therapy clients and my coaching clients, because I came certified as a life and love coach in 2009 and 10, that this was the basis of everyone that was coming to me. So I just kept doing it, and they were healing and growing and learning and changed their entire lives through it. But in 2016, Kaiser Permanente Group came out of San Diego and made the correlation of childhood trauma to people's health issues later in life. And they're talking even Alzheimer's,
Wow.
MS, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, because what happens is when trauma is not healed, it stays stored in the brain and the body tissues,
Yeah.
right, in the cells of the body. So when it's not healed, it erodes the immune system over time. So that's the health aspect. They did all of that, but the research showed 90% of people have at least 1 to 3 of the 10 childhood traumas that I identified as top 10 I saw my people doing.
Wow.
So I just came up with a 10 childhood trauma
Yeah.
checklist, right? That's what my clients use. And theirs is more geared towards the health aspect and
Right.
what's happening in health, which I thought was a phenomenal study. But their research helped my research, verify everything that I found, which was awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
So, okay, so going into 10 traumas, with your piece of paper, you make 3 long columns. The first column, you have me. The second column, you have partner, whether it's a current partner or someone you remember struggling with in the past. And the third column, you have parents. And as I go through the 10, you can put mom or dad and the parents or both. Because their studies show it definitely goes through the generations.
It is
And I found that
generational.
too, but their studies verified it, okay?
Wow.
All right, so the first one. Now, as we're going through this, I want to make sure everyone understands this is not about shame, feeling any
Right.
shame for your childhood, or
Right.
blame to blame mom or dad.
It's healing.
We're looking at it like facts right now,
Yeah.
because you can't change what you don't understand. That is
Oh,
my
that's
quote
so
that I tell
important.
everybody, because I was at the stage of I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what to do, because you don't
It's
know
not
what you
logical.
don't know.
You don't understand it, and you want to wrap your
Right.
hand around it.
So the first thing we have to do is really understand what happened in our past, and then I can make the correlations to what's going on in your future in love partners, okay? So the first, when you're a little child, very young and innocent, did your parents have any of these things going on in your household? So the first one was any addiction. So of course we know drugs, alcohol, but then there's sex addiction where there's chronic cheating, porn, gambling, hoarding, eating, spending, gaming,
Wow.
TV watching, workaholism.
People
There's
don't realize
11.
that's all addiction. It's
That's
just
all
different forms
addiction.
of addiction.
Different
yeah.
forms, and that's
Yeah.
11 just right off the bat. Okay, so there's there's any addiction in the household. Second is emotional abuse and neglect. So we all know the severe forms of that, but also in their studies they showed, like, if there was a single mom working 9 to 5, the child had to come home from school at 3 o'clock, a latchkey kid, they're alone for those 2.5 hours. There's high anxiety there.
Oh,
That
yeah, I
was noted
mean-
as a form of neglect,
Wow.
even though the parents making
Right,
money to support
right,
their family,
right.
right? You have to do what you got
Right.
to do. Okay, so it's kind of surprising some of these were traumas. Oh, okay. All right, the next one is verbal abuse. So everyone knows the yelling, screaming,
Right.
but there's verbal put downs. It's also not hearing I love you or getting compliments or hearing like you'll amount to no good, your opinion doesn't matter, keep your mouth shut, you don't know what you're talking about. Any kinds of those types of statements are a form of verbal abuse.
Right.
Okay? Or you witness domestic violence with your parents yelling and screaming all the time. So that all counts.
You internalize that as a kid. It's subconscious.
Well, it becomes your normal too. So
Yeah.
yelling to get your point across becomes a norm in your adult relationships. Okay?
Yeah.
Next one, physical abuse, rape or molestation. Those two occurrences could have happened inside or outside of the household. Physical abuse, though, is, any kinds of hitting, beating. I'd have my children in New Jersey at the school say, Miss Riana had to go pick the switch to be beat with.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
there was
a lot of people I've heard that from. So.
There's a lot of severe different forms of beating
Yeah.
going on that, I learned from my little students. So the next one is abandonment. There's 2 types. There's fault and no fault abandonment. So a no fault abandonment would be if a parent happens to die early, if they have to go off to military to serve the country,
Okay.
or like my situation, my dad traveled all the time for work. And we didn't know it, but he was FBI and CIA.
Remember you saying that?
My dad was like James Bond and very handsome. He looks like James Dean, right? So he was like a Bond guy. And I remember as a little girl say, when's Daddy coming home? And my mom would be angry, raising 5 kids mostly on her own, and say,
Wow.
well, I don't know, and be all ticked off. But when he was home, he was loving and kind.
Right.
So I had to look at that when I did the research. I said, Yeah, that happened to me.
Wow.
So initially you don't think, oh, I didn't have any traumas, had a pretty normal childhood, until you really examine these closer
Right.
with facts, right? And then the no-fault abandonment is, let's say the father leaves the home during a divorce and he promises to pick you up, doesn't show up, or just takes off and doesn't call, is not, is very inconsistent. Or if you go for the weekend, he ignores you watching football or hanging with his new girlfriend.
Right.
Now, of course, this can be opposite. I
Right,
don't mean to
right.
be man-bashing here.
Right, no.
It can be the total
Trauma's trauma. It doesn't
trauma is
discriminate
trauma.
on anybody.
That's right.
So.
This does appeal also to men, women, younger, older, straight, and LGBT clients, because I have all ages of clients that go through this.
Wow.
And all types. Wow. Okay, the next one is if you were adopted, part of foster care, or had to go live at other people's homes because mom or dad couldn't take care of you. That even means like aunts and grandparents. It's still the primary parent could not be there for some reason or another. Now, trauma number 7 is the most common. That one is personal trauma. So if you're ever bullied, put down, didn't feel good enough, you felt overweight, underweight, skinny, and gawky. You were diagnosed at school as ADHD or oppositional defiant, so you felt different. Any place where you didn't feel like you
Fit
fit
in, yeah.
or not good
And
enough.
that happens so many times in kids and schools.
That happens
and-
to a ton of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was always one that liked biographies, right? And I
Yeah.
still watch them today. So even like the story of Tiger Woods, like
Yeah.
he had this idyllic marriage and what happened, well, a lot of people don't know he was extremely bullied as a
Yep.
child. He was tied to a tree, painted
Yep.
and taunted. He had to cover up for his father's affairs, but his father was his best friend.
And coach and everything,
Yes.
and they were together all the time.
The story was fascinating, and I'm like, here's another prime example,
Right.
but him excelling in golfing pleased the parents and kept the
Wow.
peace in the household. So
Wow.
that's why he said, I did that because that's when they were happy. So, it's very interesting, and then his world fell apart as an adult when his dad passed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So the correlation is really remarkable.
Right.
Okay, and a lot of people go through this. This happens to hit a lot of entertainers, sports figures, movie stars,
Yeah.
actors, actresses. I mean, the singer Rihanna, had the toxic
Yeah,
boyfriend
yeah.
From her childhood
Right.
trauma. So this is very, very common. And people don't understand, well, why would they be with them? Well, if you see
Yeah.
the childhood trauma piece, then you totally see the correlations. And that's what I help people do, see the
Right.
correlations and fix it. Okay,
Wow.
so the next one, sibling trauma. This is when you perceive as a young person that your sibling is the golden child. So they were either prettier or more handsome, more athletic, got better grades, and you were always compared to
More
them in that
attention,
way. Got more
maybe,
attention,
from mom and dad.
and it always could also be a medical issue. If they had a medical
Oh.
issue and they needed mom's and dad's attention more, you just remember feeling they got that.
Right.
Okay, or they bullied you. That's another
Mm-hmm.
one. Number 9 is family trauma. And I brought in from the later list community trauma because community trauma is becoming more and more rampant. So community trauma is like our school shootings, our community shootings, the losses of homes by flood, fire, volcano.
And we're in
All
South
the
Florida, so we have some of that, and I think
all the
people don't
natural
realize the
disasters.
aftermath of that, and
It's huge.
it's huge.
So of course that affects adults when you lose everything, but can you imagine a little person
Not
going through that?
understanding,
Or
yeah,
losing a
yeah.
best friend at a school shooting, like the
whole world.
world. And they do experience post-traumatic stress disorder. They definitely, the feelings of that. So do people that go through traumatic love, have PTSD, and people don't even equate that.
Wow.
Yeah, love trauma. All right, so that's community trauma.
Right.
Family trauma would be if a parent's incarcerated, if you had to move a lot as a child, you remember growing up in poverty, just lack, struggle, moving a lot. I love the biography of Quincy Jones, what a beautiful man he was,
Yeah.
right? He helped so many people in his life.
and all that,
And at
yeah.
the very end of the biography, they said, well, you're so successful in so many areas, films, music, philanthropy, what didn't you do well? And he goes, relationships.
It always
And I'm
seems
like,
to come back to
there
that.
it is.
It always seems to come back to that. People who, have a great career and lots of
Yeah.
friends and all that, but then they never really have the relationship part down.
Story of Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah. That's
Well, he was
yeah.
adopted twice. The first
Oh, I
family
didn't know that.
took him back, said they didn't want him at 2 years old, which is
Wow.
a huge age of developmental for attachment.
Right.
And then he had, was adopted again. So he fell in love with things. He had a brilliant mind, but he was very erratic in moods. He was brilliant in some things, but really suffered with a relationship with his wife, who eventually divorced him, and his daughter, and he had struggled for a long time.
Right.
So very brilliant, successful people, and these are many of my clients.
Right.
Right? Very successful in business or their chosen career, but struggle in love.
And it seems that it's like that all the time, you know what I mean? And it's because people are not healed. Right?
That's right. And then the 10th one, there's one more.
Okay.
If you grow up with a mental health issue in mom or dad. So the two most difficult is borderline personality, and that is fast trigger anger, really moody. When they're good, they're great, but when they're bad, they're horrid, and you never know what you're going to get. So it's like walking on eggshells around the household. And the other one is bipolar, which is manic depressive. Depression comes out as either extreme anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. And manic, some people say, well, that's when they're high and happy, right? Well, not always.
Not always.
It usually comes out as a gambling spree, eating spree, spending spree. It's a manic phase.
And it can be
devastating,
things,
very impulsive things that not only ruin that person, but the marriage and the family.
Right.
Okay.
And I hear that a lot from friends when they talk about, like, I know I'm talking about my girlfriends. Oh, when he's good, he's really good, and he's great, and he's amazing, and he's everything I ever wanted. But when he's bad, he's really, really bad.
There's borderline for you.
That's a borderline personality. And
very
I think,
difficult to love.
And very difficult to change. Personality disorder, we're going to talk about narcissism and all that. Those are very, very it's already hard to change. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
But to change those things, it's even harder, right?
So people say, okay, so here's the 10 traumas, and how do they come out in love as an adult? I don't get it. So let's break down there's 24 different combinations, that I discovered. But let's make some of the most common ones. Okay, so where does jealousy and control come from? That comes from trauma number 7, not feeling good enough. So if you have not healed that inside, even though your partner may be really loyal and say, yes, I'm doing the right things, or they're calling you, why aren't you home yet, where are you going, how long are you going to be, and they're so jealous of you, but very often, Psychology 101, they're the ones out cheating.
Doing those things.
And they are looking for affirmations, because if that's also the case, they also had verbal abuse and emotional abuse usually.
So right there, you already triggered it back to a few of those traumas, just with that alone.
And everybody's story is a different puzzle. Everybody's combination is very different. And I also look at severity levels. There's a 1 to 10 severity. So severities 8, 9, and 10. And the sociopath, psychopath are usually 9 and 10. And like 9 to 10 of the traumas, if not 10 out of 10.
Wow.
My ex had 10 out of the 10.
Wow.
And some of him were, regular beatings, verbal abuse, alcohol in the household, and they were like level 9, 10. Wow. So when I discovered this, that's where I could forgive, because I'm like, wow, he grew up with this, and that's what formed. He wanted to be good. And the thing is, these people want love in the worst way.
Right.
They really
don't
do.
Know how.
So this is why the patterns, the first 4 months, they're amazing. They're loving, they're kind, they're attentive, they do all the right things.
The honeymoon phase.
The honeymoon phase. But then when things start getting serious, like 4 to 9 months in. So if they're living together, get married, have a child, that's when things start falling apart, because now they start relaxing. They're just being more themselves. They're not like doing everything perfect.
Right.
Now,
it's a show in the beginning, really.
Absolutely. Now, I love the series Dirty John that just came out.
That's new, yes.
On Bravo.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it.
And that's a true story, based on a true story. Yeah.
And it's very textbook sociopath, very textbook. I'll go into that in the next episode.
Yes, in the next episode.
But yes, the patterns that they do, like they want to get married very fast, very quickly, and that's because they're afraid the real them is going to emerge.
So it's a trap. They want to get you in quickly before it comes out.
So let's talk about chronic lying. Okay, somebody that lies all the time about stupid stuff. You're like, why do you have to lie about that? I don't even get that. Well, they use that as a coping mechanism when they were a child. Wow. So if they knew they were going to get beat, they had a 50-50 chance if they lied to get away with it. And it was better to lie, so they learned to become an expert liar to avoid the hittings or the beatings. Okay, a lot of women are people pleasers. So where does that come from? That might be the little girl that grew up with an alcoholic mom, very difficult, nasty, hungover. So she might wake up early and get all the siblings ready for school and make the lunches, make sure they're fed, and get them to the bus station. She becomes a mini mom, and pleasing mom. So at least she hears, "Thank you for helping me," or thanks, some kind of reward comes from that, especially not being yelled at.
Right.
Okay? So the emotional triggers that happen as adults are from the childhood wounds and the coping mechanisms.
Right.
So this is a woman that'll come to me, let's say she's in a coupled relationship, and she says, nobody loves me like I love them. I do everything for my husband, everything for my kids. So eventually they become exhausted, resentful, angry, and the husband's just like, not happy anymore. And she can't figure out why, because I do everything for you.
Right.
Right? So this is where that pattern comes into play.
Wow. So, if people are listening, they have one of these, right? It's also how you choose your partner, too. If you are attracting
Yes.
not the best people. I say your picker is broken.
It's very broken. It's because people fall in love because what the American stories were told to us, our fairy tales and romance novels and love movies, were all about, the handsome prince, sleeping beauty, he comes, kisses you, you go off, and you live happily ever after. That is relationships built on chemistry. Chemistry is really dangerous because chemistry takes you totally to the unconscious past of what you're used to, what you know. That's the issue. That's the problem. Okay? So that's why when you fall in love with chemistry, it's great in the beginning, but if you're choosing from childhood wounds, you're going to have a toxic partner.
Right.
And people of childhood trauma choose people of childhood trauma until one of them knows what's going on, and they see it early on, like the people I coach, and they're like, thank you, it was really nice meeting you, I don't think we're a match. And then they go on their merry way. They don't care how much chemistry
And that is a healthy person knowing, having self-awareness,
Yes.
and saying, this is not good for me.
Yes.
I need to release this.
That's right.
And it's okay.
That's right. And
Instead of holding on to
we have
your
a
life.
lot of what's called one and done because they know the questions to ask on their dates to identify.
We don't ask the right questions.
No,
We don't
people
ask
just go
enough.
out and have a couple drinks and just have a good time.
Or they just have somebody that they like to
hang
out with, but then it turns into
something
toxic.
Yeah. And then love addiction comes from abandonment issues. So let's say you have that toxic partner and you keep trying to leave, but you keep letting them come back in. Why would you do that?
Right.
Well, there's some abandonment in that history. So when people are starting to tell me the story, I'm like, so you had this, this, and this, like, wow, how did you know? Because I've learned to put all these patterns together.
Right.
Now, once we know what we're dealing with, now I can help them break out of the trauma response, which is unconscious.
Right.
Make them consciously aware of what's going on. Then we go into making them a successful single. What is their dreams? What is their desire in life? What's their
successful
purpose?
Single person. I love
Then
that.
you go out and date with
Then you
full
go
conscious
date.
awareness after that.
And that is healthy.
That's very healthy.
That's being healthy. That is,
Yeah.
And for people who feel like, well, gosh, I have so many of these, I'm never going to, date right. You can.
You can.
You can. You have to, it's a choice.
I don't know anyone else out there with a combination, honestly, of being a psychotherapist, a clinical trauma professional, and a certified global coach. And I wear all three hats. The beginning, I look at trauma. In the middle, I'm, in the coaching realm, getting your life in balance and what your dreams are. And then at the end, I'm teaching you the exact skills you need to know to go out and date and find an equal, emotionally healthy, evolved, conscious person.
Yes.
So you're dating consciously
Right.
with full awareness.
Right.
Okay.
I love that. So we're going to wrap up our first episode. Rihanna's coming back really quickly. How can people find you if they want to work with you?
Several ways. I have a whole lot of great resources on my website,
she does.
RianaMilne.com. I have free love tests there, chapter downloads of my books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams.
These are amazing books. We're going to talk about them because I love them.
Love went to #1 bestseller. It's 400 pages of great tips about what's good love, what's bad love.
Right.
And also my podcast is called Lessons in Life and Love. Alexa, I have a daily brief called The Daily Lesson in Life and Love. So Alexa Skills. Just Google search me, you'll find me.
She's out there, I'm telling you, and she's amazing. This is just
you.
a quick synopsis of everything. I mean, she really can help you heal, I think. So thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome. Thanks
stay
for having me,
tuned
Nicole.
for next episode.
See you soon.
Bye.